Whether you are new at homeschooling or you have been doing it for years, one thing is for sure. You got some things and they need to be organized. I know full well the overwhelm that can set in when you start to accumulate all these wonderful resources, curriculum, and items for your kids and your homeschool. So today I want to share with you some tips and things to think about as you organize or reorganize, and ways that you can maintain organization throughout the entire homeschool year. As you start to think about organization or reorganization, I want you to keep one thing at the forefront of your mind. What do I need? What do my kids need? Because after all, organization works best when you prioritize function. So the first thing I want to address is this idea of categories. Now, sometimes we think about categories as in like items like office supplies, school supplies, craft supplies. However, when you think about categories, you can think about them in a more overarching sense and a catch-all for a specific theme or topic. And so, for example, I like to keep my curriculum separated by subject, and then I have the corresponding manipulatives that most of us will grab and use related to that subject. And then I have specific work boxes that I've dedicated for manipulatives, activities, and worksheets that each child will need specific to a certain subject. So in this top drawer, I have a lot of things for my oldest daughter in her math category, and then underneath of that I have reading and writing and so on. Those are different ways that I have started to set up my categories in terms of overarching things. Now, as far as something like books, I like to keep them organized in one section so we know exactly where to go when we want to look for a read aloud book. And then I set up specific subcategories of organization so that each shelf represents a different type or genre of book. So for example, this top shelf of our library has chapter books, Bibles, and early readers. An extra tip as far as book organization goes is that when you organize according to genres and different types of books, that's a nice gateway to teaching children how the library works, because a library is very much organized in that same categorical way. Does it get disorganized and messy from time to time? Absolutely. But we know exactly where these things need to be put back when it comes time to clean up. So in essence, having overarching categories that are a little bit more broad and then subcategories that are more specific has really helped us to get organized and stay organized throughout the school year. These categories also really help when you start to feel like things are getting out of hand, because as we all know, no matter what we do, things will always get to a point of messiness and clutter and disorganization. So when that happens in my home, what I like to do is grab all the random things, put them in the middle of a cleared and empty floor, and start to naturally sort them by like items. And once I start to see what those subcategories are, I have already set up these overarching categories, so I know exactly where these things will go. When it comes to space, my question is, how can we maximize our access to things while also minimizing the visual clutter? For me, that last bit about visual clutter is one thing that I know gets me very easily overwhelmed. So I am more inclined to try to put things away and out of sight. And then when it comes to things that I know we need to access very readily on a daily basis, I try to keep those things out and visible, but still maintain a sense of organization with things like trays and bins and extra shelving units. All of these little things really work together to help maintain a sense of organization, not just for me, but also my children. Now, there are certainly plenty of things that we have used throughout the school year that we are not currently using right now. And so I like to store those things away in larger or smaller bins, whatever we need for those specific items. And I keep that in our basement. placement. And I try again to use those overarching categories to keep like things together. For instance, our unit study items. So to recap on space, you want to think about what is most beneficial for you to keep out and have easy access to on a daily basis, but making sure that those things are categorically organized and also neatly organized so that they're easy to grab. And then thinking about some of the items maybe that you don't want to visually see, maybe they pertain to a specific child and you want to keep those hidden away, but still have access to on a daily or weekly basis. And then the last part is to store away items that you may not be using currently. Now, I totally understand that not all of us have attics or basements or extra storage areas to put all of these things that we want to store away. However, I would encourage you to think about creative ways you can use the spaces that you have to store away these extra items. Perhaps you have space under your bed to store these extra items. Now, in terms of space and storage, you might be getting to a point where you're looking around you and thinking, my God, I have too many things. So at that point, I would encourage you to start decluttering. Now, as you declutter, you don't necessarily have to throw away things. You can certainly think about other homeschooling families who might appreciate some gently used items that you no longer have use for. So really think about who you can donate certain items to. And then I would encourage you to start to set up a decluttering system for yourself and for your kids on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. That way, things don't get overwhelming for you and you get to this point where you have to do an extreme declutter of your homeschool space. Within all of these things that I mentioned, it's important to remember a couple of things. One, it is not your sole responsibility to maintain organization. It is everyone's responsibility. And so make sure that you're bringing your kids into the process as well. Sometimes I'll have conversations with my kids if I need to about where I can put certain things so that they have easy access to them and then guide them in the ways that they are to put it back. That being said, as you set up different categories, as you reorganize your place, make sure that the systems you create, that the categories you create make sense not only for you, but for everyone else in your family. There have been many, many times where my husband is done with work and he comes down and he wants to help us clean up from a wonderful busy day of homeschool. However, he has no idea where things go because maybe for him it doesn't make too much sense, but for me it does. So you want to make sure that everyone in your household is on the same page with the organization systems that you set up. The last thing I want to say is that organization is not a one and done thing. That is a misconception I had as I started to actually take the time to organize our home even before homeschool. Organization is a process, and especially with a schooling space, you realize how quickly children grow up and they have different needs. Everybody's needs are changing. And so organization and the systems that you create have to change with it. As you think about all of these categories, you think about your space and you think about how you want to set up a decluttering system, really remember that things are not fixed, they're going to change, and organization is an ongoing process. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I truly appreciate it. And if you've enjoyed this video and gotten some value from it, I would really appreciate it if you would just give it a great big thumbs up, a like. That helps to support this channel greatly. Also, be sure to check out some of these other videos that I have over here. Take care, be blessed, and I'll see you in the next one.